Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys.
Everything sequel contains explicit language. And why the fudge not, you melon farmer?
Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel Podcast, the last summer edition. My name is Michael Shantz.
No, that's the last summer edition, not
Right.
the last.
No, that's
summer
true.
Edition.
Yeah, don't
Although,
be confused.
Probably not for release, but for recording, this is probably our last
True.
summer.
That's true. Officially.
Edition.
But you're going to hear this in
Officially.
fucking December, January.
Yeah. But and if you think this is at all nitpicking, bear in mind this franchise is very specific about summers and the gaps between them.
I'll say. That's Tom Stewart from Lonesome Whistle Productions. I'm Mike Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. We are doing the I Still Know What You... I don't know. I quit. That's the thing about these movies, Tom, is you can't even say the title before you're like, man, I don't even want to watch this.
Yeah, the number of times in referring to the title in my notes, I had to go back onto the IMDb and recheck the title. I think going from I to Isle,
Right.
between sequels was a big mistake in terms of anyone giving a fuck about these movies. To be honest, as soon as the apostrophe appeared, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done.
Yeah, I quit.
I can't even put them in the same part of Blockbuster Entertainment. I'm done.
Yeah, and the thing is if you watch the first movie, you think, why does this movie need two sequels?
Yes.
Doesn't.
Well, and this is a kind of interesting point because in these two sequels, you see the tentative building blocks of a name slasher franchise that not only didn't happen, but the third film kind of talks itself out of by the end of it.
The third film is just the first film. It's just a remake, essentially. But I love that they call it I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, as if it has anything to do with the previous story. And it doesn't.
I think when one of the characters says, I've never heard of this stupid fisherman, you as the viewer can only agree, like, yeah.
Agree? Yeah, completely.
He's, like, I've heard of Freddy Krueger, I've heard of Jason Voorhees, and I've heard of Michael Myers. I have not heard of Ben Willis, a.k.a. The Fisherman.
The Fisherman. And that's the thing about this series is, okay, so you have the writer, right, Kevin Williamson.
Uh-huh.
He wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer long before he wrote Scream.
Right.
Scream becomes a big hit, so naturally Hollywood was like, let's go! We're all in on I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Kevin, what do you have on your desk right now? Send it over. It's now a movie.
Yeah, exactly. And, it reminds me, because I have friends who are writers and who have told me they write something, 12 years later it's getting made, and they're thinking to themselves, I'd like to take my name off of that.
Mm.
And I ask why, and they say, because I wasn't as good a writer back then as I am now. And that's how this franchise feels to me. It feels like a first effort.
Well, I'm sure we'll get there at some point, but there were moments where I thought, not just that this is something handled better in Scream, but certainly, this idea of imitators and pastiches being your route into the sequel is something that Scream would later pick up in a big way. So I think the seeds of it are there.
For sure.
but it's not fully realized yet, and yet they have the Scream movies to refer to if they want to, so they've got no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. They have a reference of how we could have done this better.
Yeah, I know how you could have done this better last summer.
Yeah, right. Perfect. All right. So, listen, listeners, this is our introductory episode to this series. The original film was I Know What You Did Last Summer. It has 2 sequels. One of them, Tom, direct to video. We have I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, major release. And we have I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, straight to video, but we're going to do it anyway, right?
Well, yeah, otherwise our next project will be rendered null and void if we excluded video.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a hint of where we're going next.
So, obviously, everyone, when we introduce a new film series, the first thing this introductory episode is to rank them and declare them bad or good. Tom, was this difficult for you at all on either end of that spectrum for ranking or declaring?
Well, despite my predilection for the third in a series, which has been a theme up until now,
has been reoccurring, yeah.
I have to say this is probably the easiest ranking I've done as yet. And just to put it in perspective, if you had told me that I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer was a fan-made film that was funded on Indiegogo, I wouldn't even say yes. I wouldn't say anything. I would just nod in agreement and then say, oh, I guess they didn't get their goal then.
They didn't hit the mark.
I mean, the drop-off in quality between those two movies, and this is not to say that I think there's anything that special about
Right.
I Still Know.
But there's money behind it, and it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's in the first few minutes of...
I would say they waste a lot of money on the second, in the series, but...
Right, yeah, I mean, just they go to the Bahamas. I mean, it's literally they're spending the money on a vacation.
It's unbelievable. We'll get to it, but...
And, well, when the third... I'm not going to do the full title every time. When the third movie begins...
The third movie, the second and third.
Yeah, in the course of the first few minutes of the film, you're already patently aware that we've gone from a lot of celebrities to absolutely none.
Correct.
And so, I think that's sort of that's really how you have to. Yeah, we did Troll 2 recently, and that was actors who were considered for extras before they were considered for leads,
right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it was exactly the same here.
Sure, and I take it seems fairly obvious you're going 2-3.
Yes, without a single hesitation. Yeah.
Without hesitation, I rank them 2 and then 3. Do you think either movie's good?
No, I think that I would no.
Yeah.
But there are definitely serviceable qualities about the second one, but not enough to...
Not enough to declare it good.
No, and I think I have some like real issues with the second one.
Oh yeah.
Because it's in a kind of... It's in like a really political gray area of our cultural history, which we'll talk about on the episodes themselves.
Yes, I agree completely. I'm on the same page. I wonder if we're talking about the same thing, but yeah.
We could easily be talking about two different things.
Totally.
That amount to the same problem.
Yeah, because this movie's got problems.
So everything that I admire as a horror fan about this movie, and there's definitely touches that are really interesting. The fact that I, despise what it's doing politically means that that kind of disqualifies it for forever. If there was ever any doubt, then I'm going to hold its politics against it.
All right.
It's too much of a con. And if in another 48 hours, that's not an ethically good movie, but if you're aware and you're working with the problems you have in a way that's entertaining, I might give you a pass.
Right.
But this movie doesn't do this. It only detracts from what's good about this movie.
Mm-hmm. And when you're dealing with a movie that doesn't have a lot that's good, you don't want to detract.
That's right. You want to be counting up.
Yeah.
all the time. And we're really not. But we'll talk about good and bad within the movie, but overall bad.
Yeah, I agree. They're both bad movies.
Yeah, and the third entry is, I think, interesting only in how it wants to relate to the previous two movies.
That's the most interesting thing about it, frankly, because nothing in that movie needs to exist in the universe of
Right, and
The Man with the
if
Slicker.
there are any surprises, question mark, in that movie, they're all about how, like where does this fit in
Right.
relation to the previous two movies? That's the
It
only
does
kind
not.
of- yeah. And
Where does it fit, Tom? It does not fit.
It depends on you. Yeah, it's a really interesting one for us as people doing a sequel podcast.
Right.
Because we have to ask a question about, is it better to be, is it better to forego plausibility just to be part of the mythology,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
or do you want a sequel to be like tenuously connected to the original two films, but potentially be a better film because of it?
So that's the one thing I find endlessly fascinating about that third movie is exactly what you're talking about now. Sort
And
of
I'm not convinced
the value in it. Right?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that they necessarily knew what side of that they were going to land on
No.
when they started making the movie.
No.
I don't know if there's any BTS stuff that would confirm or deny that, but I certainly got the sense while watching it that that it could it could land either way, and there's probably different edits out there that do land either way.
Yeah, that's very true. That could be very true. Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, okay. We're both 2-3. We're both saying these are bad movies.
Yeah, is that the first time we've agreed completely?
It just might be. I think it is.
I can't remember another time that we've agreed so easily. Certainly.
Ooh, I don't know what to do now.
Stay tuned, everyone.
Yeah,
for
I'm gonna have to
two
talk.
men
I'm gonna have
agreeing
to.
with each other.
I'm gonna have to talk about this in my therapy session later.
I guess. There are great podcasts where there's no conflict.
Well, let's be honest. We're gonna disagree about something at some point.
Maybe.
I'm sure, but taking the large overview, we agree, and that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Think of this as like the Gene Roddenberry vision of heaven, where all conflict has been resolved, and it's just a nice conversation between two people on a starship.
Yeah, exactly. Just nice conversation between a couple of cool dudes.
For 7 years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that's our ranking. We both rank these 2-3. I love that we're saying 2-3. There's no numbers for these sequels. So we both say, and I'm exhausted already at the prospect of saying the titles, but we both say, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, the better sequel. I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, the inferior sequel. But we both say these are bad movies.
I do wonder if when, I'm pretty sure the Kevin Williamson call went down the way I suggested, where they say, "What's on your desk? We'll make a movie of it."
Right.
And he was just reading the title to them. I know what you did last summer, and then they were just like, "Great, we'll put it on a slate. We're gonna start production tomorrow." And he's like, "No, wait, that was just a working title. I can come up with a better." That's how I think that went down.
We got to get him on the show. I'd really like to know.
And then, like, a big box of money turned up on his doorstep, and he's like, "Nah, okay."
Done. It was probably literally a sack with the dollar sign on it. There you go.
Yeah. You've done it again, Kevin.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell us your ranking, and you can tell us whether, if you're a fan, if you love one of these sequels, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, we're being very ungenerous towards these movies, so
yeah.
we're happy to hear some generous responses.
So if you're a fan, by all means, you let us know. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, find us on Twitter, or send us an email, everythingsequel@gmail.com, and we'll listen to it, and we might just read it on the air. All right. Stay tuned, everybody. Next episode, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Say goodbye, Tom.
Goodbye for one summer.
Nice.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beers. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.